a meaningful investment in the brand that allowed for people to understand what we were trying to build and who we were trying to build it for. And I think we were really fortunate in having just some really amazing early members that kind of kept that ball rolling. But it was everything from, one of the things that we did was have a physical space at the onset. And the physical space in some ways was like marketing for us to kind of show a brand that we were trying to develop and really bring that to life. That was a conscious decision and investment into the brand. Things like we didn't have a social media presence at all because we felt like, what were we going to say? How would it be meaningful? And it actually helped to create like this really interesting tightness of people that were in the community versus trying to, shout it out into all of the different social media areas. One-on-one executive coaching can be $30,000 for a 6-month engagement. So relative to that, this was a great way for them to invest in some of their top talent. We started to sell at the end of 2018. We didn't officially launch services until 2019, in February of 2019. And we were just in New York City. So we were continuing to add members in New York City until around, mid 2019, we went and raised our Series A largely to expand into new cities, which at the time was a more capital intensive way of expanding because we were in person. We had to make investments into clubhouses. And so we were in the midst of those build outs when the pandemic happened. And that's when we made the full pivot over to virtual. And as we did that, engagement actually went up across every one of our services. We do a lot of vetting to make sure that we have the right coaches that are coming on that act as, we call them guides on our platform. And they're just fabulous. We have close to 400 executive coaches that act as guides for us now. And for us, I think there's, a little bit of a beginning introduction into core that is very similar for all core groups. In the first few sessions, there's, a very prescribed way of bringing the group together, making sure that everybody creates a deep sense of community even within that group. And for us, community has always led. And even, you could extend that to many other paradigms of like, does community lead or does space lead? Like, what is the actual service that you are providing? And for us, we knew that community had to be the thing that always led. Event businesses in general is a type of business model that I didn't really have much familiarity with until Chief, and I would never consider ourselves an event company. But it's been pretty interesting to see the opportunities that exist for people in that space. We actually started early days on Slack, and it was amazing to see the amount of interaction that was happening there and how much people were, stepping forward to help each other, to connect, to do all sorts of different things. The problem is that like Slack is definitely not built for a community of, you don't even know who you're talking to unless they properly filled out their it's just not the forum. And so we switched over to our own in 2020. And it has sustained. And I think for us, a lot of it is around, there's these known touch points that are going to come up. You're going to, on every month, you're going to have a core meeting that's going to pull you into the product in order for you to go and get what you need to get to go and have that conversation. And there's many of those types of things that, there's many utilities that exist within the platform that pull you in. And then once you're in, draw you into a lot of the community aspects. For us, particularly over the pandemic and everything else, we wanted to make sure that we were really investing in the member experience and continuing to do that. And we're continuing to do that. And that's why we wanted to raise more capital to continue to do that. I think about when brands are are made, and and it's in those tough times. And for us, being able to be there for our members through the pandemic, when a lot of them at the very beginning of the pandemic, there were furloughs, there were all of those things. Like, how do we invest in that experience over that period of time was really important to us. So us going and actually building more of those relationships directly with the company, it seems like a no-brainer for them to proactively do more of this instead of reactively approve. And so I think that's an opportunity for us to explore, to really take that burden off of her to have to go and get that sponsorship. But we definitely, 20% of the workforce changes jobs in any given year. So there's definitely a lot of new relationships for us to help both the companies and the members navigate. I think that this business model in particular is one that I think will have a really interesting next few years as people are still working from home and still in this hybrid world, but wanting that community and those connections. And so I think in any area where that feeling of loneliness is still really present coming out of the pandemic, I think there's some really interesting opportunities. I think the hard part is the really nice aspect of Chief is that ultimately it's the company that can sponsor it. And so how do you find those areas and those demographics and those people who need that community, who will crave that community, but have somebody like the company that's willing to make that investment in those people? And that's the 1-2 punch that I think makes Chief really interesting. I don't have a group of people that understand my context easily. And finding that, being able to tap into that, and to be able to have the confidentiality that goes with some of that too, because a lot of what happens in these peer groups is, pretty raw, honest, authentic conversations that is hard to have with just anyone. We do not. It's a confidential space for them to have their conversation. So we're not able to, watch what is happening in each of these sessions. But I think, even going back to what we were just talking about of there being a galvanizing feeling around this mission, our members are just so passionate about this mission that they are not shy to give us feedback on anything and everything. It has truly been kind of an amazing experience to be able to get all of that feedback and be able to create some of this in partnership. And we have some amazing members who have stepped forward, and we have one member who's like, I'm going to just run a sub board services community group within Chief and bring in speakers and help each other find opportunities. And so you've just seen such a uprising of both feedback, but also really big interest in stepping forward and helping to create stuff together.